Welcome to Katlu, I'm your host Manasvi, and if you're new here, we have been talking about the Japanese drama Alice in Borderland. Alice in Borderland is a thriller take on the classic story Alice in Wonderland, and I'm going to do a quick recap, but as always, if you want more details, go watch the first two parts. The Alice in the Japanese take is Arisu. Arisu is looked down upon by his dad and his brother because he dropped out of college and wastes his time playing games. His dad was pretty well off financially, so money was never really an issue for him. Arisu's pride and joy in life are his two friends, Karube and Chōta. Karube is your typical bad boy with a golden heart kind of person, and he has the most unshakable faith in Arisu. He's always wanted Arisu to make something of his life. Chōta is the fiercely loyal one of the bunch. His mom is part of a cult, and he's seen some pretty traumatizing things as a child. So the only people who were ever really willing to be his friends were Arisu and Karube, and because of that, they mean a lot to him. One day, the three of them gather in the middle of Tokyo, as they always do, but today, their fun gets interrupted when all of a sudden everyone in the city disappears. They sit in the middle of the road wondering what happened because their phones don't work, the cars don't work, and the food is rotting. When night falls, a select few buildings start lighting up, and there are these signs that are telling them to make their way to a game arena. Thinking that this is a little bit fun, the friends make their way to a building where they see some really strange things. The building has a bunch of phones that unlock based on facial recognition, and the phone starts talking about registering to some game. They quickly learn that these games are not fun at all. Once they register in these games, they only have two choices, either win or die. If you try to walk out, they get lasered through the head. The very first game that they play is live or die. They get deposited into a room that has two doors. One of them has the word live written on it, and the other has the word die written on it. They have 2 minutes to pick a door. Pick the wrong door and you get lasered through the head. Don't pick a door and you get set on fire because they light the floor on fire once time is up. They survive that game, but not completely unscathed. Chōta's leg ends up getting burned so badly, and the next day Karube and Arisu decide to join another game just to get a feel on how well they'll be able to support Chōta in the future. Why did Chōta not need to attend? Well, each game that they play is associated with a card, like a deck of playing cards. The Live or Die game was a 3 of clubs game, and when they had finished, they got 3 days deposited into their visa, which basically means that they can spend 3 days just living in this world without having to join these games. So with 2 days left on the visa, Arisu and Karube join a game, and while waiting for the registration to close, Arisu learns that the card suits have meanings. Spades is a physical game, clubs is a team battle, diamond is a battle of the wits, and the hearts is the cruelest of them all. It's a battle of the hearts. The game they have joined tonight is a 5 of spades. The game is tag, except the people who are playing it are people wearing these horse heads, and the people they are tagging are people who they are shooting and killing with their guns. The clear condition is to find a safe space, and if they can find it in time, then everyone who has survived gets to live. If they can't, then the entire building will explode in 20 minutes. And it's during this game that he meets Aguni, Usagi, and Chishiya. They all work together to find this safe space and stop the bomb, adding 5 more days to all of their visas. But at the end of the game, they learn of some place called the beach. It seems like a place where people have congregated. Karube and Arisu head back to Chōta and Shibuki, who is somebody they met during the first game and kind of joined their group, but she's not important. And the next night, all 4 of them go to play a game. Because remember that they only got 3 days from their first visa, and Chōta and Shibuki didn't join yesterday, so now they have to play a game, otherwise they will get lasered. The team makes their way to a botanical garden where the game is 7 of hearts. The game itself is hide and seek, and there is 1 wolf and 3 sheep, and the winner of the game will be whoever is the wolf at the end of 15 minutes. One internal conflict later, Karube and Chōta decide that Arisu is the one who should live, and Arisu is forced to watch as his friends' heads explode. Arisu lays on the road outside the garden for a few days until Usagi pulls him out of his depression. And from then on, Arisu's goal becomes to make sure that Usagi doesn't die, and then trying his best to help as many people survive as possible. They play 1 more game before the 2 of them start looking for the beach, and it takes them days to find this place called the beach, and it's this hotel that a man named Hatter is running. Hatter has structured this place like a utopia. You're allowed to party as much as you want, do as many drugs as you want, have as much sex as you want, and there are only 3 rules that you have to follow. Rule 1, always wear a swimsuit wherever you go. You can't conceal any weapons inside a swimsuit, so so it's deemed safer. Rule 2, all playing cards are the beach's property, which means any cards anyone living at the beach collects must be handed over to Hatter. And the reason is because Hatter believes that the only way to get out of this world is to collect all the cards in the deck, and then one person will be able to leave. And after he's gone, they'll have to start collecting all over again for the next person, and so on and so forth. Rule number 3, death to all traitors. If you don't hand over your cards to them, they will kill you. So by finding the beach, Arisu and Usagi have signed themselves up to be a part of this madman's world. The power dynamics on the beach are really strange. The beach is a place that's being run on one man's charisma. But of course, that charisma doesn't vibe with everyone, right? There's a general population who love Hatter, and then there are the militants. This is a group on the beach who control the firearms, and this group is led by Aguni. These guys want more of a military dictatorship at the beach, but they can't cross Hatter, so they're just biding their time. The beach also has a council which consists of An, Mira, Tsuyoshi, Chishiya, Aguni, and a couple militants. Niragi and the last boss are probably the most notable ones. And a couple more people whose names we never really learn. And once An tests Arisu and sees that he's useful in these games, Arisu gets invited to join the council. During the council meetings, they talk about how the face cards have never shown up, and they are still missing the 10 of hearts. And during one of these meetings, Hatter informs everyone that he needs to join a game soon because his visa is expiring, and asks the council to keep the beach safe. But Hatter returns as a dead body. The militants take over the beach, and Arisu gets tied up by the militants because he was caught trying to steal the playing cards. But the even sadder part is that this idea wasn't even his. Chishiya played him by setting him up, which ended up with Arisu getting tied up. And as the beach is going through a change of power, a game arena around the beach opens up. The 10 of Hearts card has shown up, and everyone in the beach is a player. The objective of the game: find the witch who murdered this girl, Momoka, among them, and burn them in the judgment of fire, and their time limit is 2 hours. With Aguni in charge and Arisu taped up in a room, the game begins, and rushes up to Momoka's body to do some checks, while everyone else turns their attention to Asahi, Momoka's best friend. They all immediately get suspicious as to why she wasn't with Momoka today, and it's strange that two people who are usually glued together by the hip happen to be separated long enough for Momoka to get murdered. Niragi, who is more than a little crazy, jumps in at this chance, and he gets a few men to pick up Asahi so that they can burn her, but Usagi and Mira step in Niragi's way. Mira gets them to put Asahi down, and Usagi brings up some good points. We are all suspects in this game. Where were all of you, and what were all of you doing, and can you prove it? Niragi looks at her with a smug smile. I can prove that you and I were having a good time in bed. And stops observing the body and takes charge. Everyone will take turns explaining what you did in the past hour. But someone points out a bloody handkerchief that Anne is holding, and the crowd gets suspicious of her, but Anne boldly holds it up and says, I can explain this. This is Hatter's blood. I was examining Hatter's body. That's how the blood got onto me. Hatter was murdered. Hatter was killed? Why didn't you tell us about this? The executive believed that this might throw everyone into a panic. Well then what else are you people hiding from us, huh? And pulls out the bullet that she extracted from Hatter's body and shows it to the room. Calm down, I took this bullet from Hatter's body, and it's the same caliber as the ones that we have on the beach. This means that someone here on the beach killed Hatter. A woman looks at the bullet and then voices her thoughts. Do you think that maybe the witch killed Hatter? I mean, that doesn't sound so crazy, am I right? The witch could be one of them. And those are her last words, because a sword comes out of her chest and she collapses to the ground. Last Boss had stabbed her because he had found her annoying, and Last Boss's genius solution is just to burn everybody. Aguni, who had been hanging out in the back, starts to walk forward, and the crowd is so scared of him that they leave like 25 yards of space between themselves and the man. As Aguni is walking to stand in the middle of the crowd, he's addressing them. If someone here is the witch, then everyone in this room except for the militant members could be the witch. So, who here is the witch? Step forward. If one of you here won't admit it, then all of you will burn. When no one steps forward, Niragi becomes trigger happy. The man now has no one stopping him from rampaging through the beach. He releases some shots of joy into the ceiling before turning his gun to the crowd. And now that everyone knows that their lives are in danger, they run off in whatever direction is closest. Usagi helps Asahi get off the ground, grabs one of the leftover phones, and they start searching for Arisu. The militant group is hesitant to chase after all the people they've been calling their comrades up until now, but when Nuragi shoots one of the members who refuses to go through with it, the others have no choice but to join. It's either kill or be killed, and so the 10 of Hearts game has turned bloody in about 10 minutes. Usagi and Asahi bump into Tata and his friend, and together the four of them search for Arisu. Chishiya and Kuina, in the meantime, are hiding out in the CCTV room, watching as people get gunned down, and Chishiya has the balls to comment, "They've all gone so crazy." Not their smartest move. Why would they go so far just to survive? Listen, this man is insanely smart, but at the same time, he also went as far as sacrificing good people many times in order to survive. Kuina adds in that they won't be able to find the witch like this, and then her eyes narrow at a CCTV monitor that is filming a room. The room is dark, but you can see a figure moving around in that room, opening cabinet doors, clearly looking for something. Meanwhile, the bloodbath is continuing. Nuragi has set up camp on top of the beach building, on top of the hotel building, and he's sniping everyone that he can. He's also radioing Last Boss to lure everyone out into the courtyard because it's too hard to kill people if you have to find them. Last Boss is way ahead of Nuragi though. He goes into the basement, spreads multiple gallons of gasoline, and lights a fire. Usagi and Tata's search isn't going too well. Arisu isn't in any of the rooms they've looked in so far, but in one of the rooms that they go into, Asahi finds a militant member hiding in the bathroom with his gun. The poor man is shaking because he doesn't want to kill, but he also doesn't want to die. Usagi approaches him and asks him where Arisu is, and he tells her that they left him in the main building. Tata and his friend, who are also searching, end up getting cornered by a militant woman. Tata's friend ends up getting killed, but Tata manages to pin her down to the ground before she can shoot him. From her, he finds out that Arisu is on the 4th floor. Meanwhile, Kuina heads to the suspicious room that she saw on the CCTV, and there she finds An. Kuina? Yeah. What are you doing over here? Well, if you're free, come over here and give me a hand. Are you the witch? Unfortunately not, but what about you? You know, I'm guessing not. Anyone trying to find the witch on their own is not the one. If you were the witch, you'd be hiding right now or having fun killing people. Again, what are you doing? I'm looking for the witch, obviously. Ah, here it is. And she's holding a tube of cyanoacrylate glue, aka super glue. Her plan is to heat up the glue and then apply it to the murder weapon, and then all of the moisture in the cyanoacrylate will evaporate and hopefully leave behind some fingerprints. Then she can use cocoa powder to dust the fingerprints on the knife. After she lifts the fingerprints with cellophane tape, the identity of the witch will be clear as day. Kuina is a bit amazed at Anne, and we find out that before coming to this world, Anne was a forensics officer for the Tokyo Metro Police. But on their way to Momoko's body, they bump into Last Boss. He's standing in the smoke-filled building, almost like he knew that they were there, and Kuina sends Anne along to the body, telling her that she can take care of Last Boss. As the smoke is spreading, though, more and more people are trying to make their way outside, but they also realize that they're being hunted outside as well, and so more and more people are getting cornered. In his room, Arisu is struggling with a capital S. They've taped his mouth shut, so he's just inhaling a whole bunch of smoke, and he can't even cough properly. His struggling throws him onto his side, still taped to the chair, and he slowly loses consciousness. Nuragi is still unleashing terror from his rooftop, and after taking a shot, he pauses for a bit, and we get to see what Nuragi's life was like before he came to this world. He was heavily bullied. His bullies would make him stand in front of him while one of them would pitch a ball and the other would hit the ball with a baseball bat right at Nuragi's face. Of course, when that hits, it hurts, so the man doubles over in pain, but his bullies are mad that he moved, and they tell him if he moves again, they'll make him eat the urine rice again. I have thoughts that I will save to the end, but that was what his life was like, and to him, this world is like heaven. He gets ready to shoot again when Trishia's voice stops him. Don't you get tired of bullying people weaker than you? And where were you hiding, Trishia? Oh, there are lots of places for me to hide over here. You really get on my nerves, you know that? Thinking that you're so goddamn smart, acting like you're so goddamn clever. I don't have to act. I am clever. Okay then, why don't we put an end to this right now? Meanwhile, Last Boss and Kuina are facing off. Kuina is taking him on really well. She's definitely learned how to fight. An, in the meantime, has reached Momoka's body, and she's looking around before she removes the knife and then leaves. Kuina and Last Boss's fight leads them to the dance floor, and Last Boss is impressed. You're pretty good. What'd you do before you got here? I sold clothes. And we get Kuina's backstory. Kuina is actually a biological male, and for the longest time when she lived at home, she was at odds with her father. Her dad was a martial arts teacher, and he would force his son to train with him. Kuina often ended up with nosebleeds, and it wasn't because she couldn't land a blow. Actually, more often than not, she would get close enough to end the match, but she would never land the finishing blow. And that was her weakness, and her father hated it. One day, Kuina was putting on some lipstick when her father caught her, and he threw a fit. The next day, Kuina packs her bags and leaves not only her father behind, but also her mother. Kuina doesn't tell Last Boss this, and instead asks him what his backstory is. Back at the rooftop, Chishiya is telling his findings. Our main power supply has been diverted since the game started. The electricity we've always used from these power generators was switched to the hotel's power supply. That means whoever's running this game snuck into the beach and controls its power from underground. What the hell are you saying? I think you know who the witch is. That it's someone close to you. You thinking I'm the witch? Sorry, but you're wrong. Only the executive members have information on how the power grid operates. I also know that only the executives have the key to access the underground, and I'll kill all the executives to get the key, starting with you. Sorry, but I can't let you do that. I've got plans. Naragi lifts his gun, but Chishiya runs towards him and throws all the playing cards that he has in the air, and this serves as distraction for Naragi, and Chishiya uses this time to pull out a water gun. But it is not a regular water gun. It's a water gun filled with gasoline, and a lighter is attached to the end of it, and when Chishiya shoots, Naragi lights up on fire and falls off the rooftop. Then we get transported to the past, and we get Last Boss's story. Last Boss was a hikikomori? A hikikomori is a man who is someone that's usually avoids social interactions altogether. They very rarely leave their house, and Last Boss had an obsession with explorers. He would spend hours writing articles about them, and most of the time his articles go like this. Robert Edwin Peary, an explorer who devoted his entire life to reaching the North Pole. He failed to reach it several times. In fact, he lost 8 of his toes on one particular expedition. However, in 1909, he became the first Westerner to reach the North Pole. As he marched ever forward towards certain death, people often wondered what drove him to do so. I believe that by facing the possibility of death, it was in fact his way to feel truly alive. When will I too feel truly alive? Even though I am alive, I'm in a place where I cannot even choose what I eat. I've lived this life without having any consciousness of death. How should I feel then about truly living life? I need to escape from this temporary home that I live in. I want to live in the real world. Then he came to this world. He cleared his first game, and for the first time in years he felt alive, and slowly he started changing his appearance to something that just wouldn't be acceptable in the old world. He shaved his head, got tattoos all over his face, and by doing this he pledged to live in this world forever. But to Kuina, all he says is, my story has no past. Oh, I understand it all now then. I always thought that you and I were very similar. Both of us hate our past, but there's a very big difference between us. You keep turning your back on your past, but I will face my past, and it will ensure that I survive. And they start fighting again. Last Boss manages to cut Kuina's arm with his katana, and Kuina manages to deliver a flying kick, causing Last Boss to fly across the room. Arisu, in the meanwhile, is still really struggling. In his unconscious state, his mind conjures up a memory of him, Karube, and Chōta. They were sitting at a bar that Karube worked for, laughing about their high school days. Chōta brings up the arcade that Arisu used to frequent. Do you remember that arcade that closed? What was its name again? It was in front of our high school, right? And of course, Arisu remembers the name. Dreamworld. Oh my god, yeah, you're right. Dreamworld, that's it. It was Dreamworld. I'd skip class to go there, and Arisu would already be there, eyes glued to some dirty magazine, reading it out loud. The magazines in the 90s were the best. And once again, of course, Arisu has to agree. Yeah, they really were good. Actually, I liked reading the articles. They were weirdly well written. But that's beside the point, because Chōta remembers that the day that the arcade went bankrupt and had to shut down, Arisu was crying. Arisu stood in front of that building, bawling like a child, and they laugh while shaking their heads at how young they were. And Karube says, those were the days, those were the best days. And Chōta agrees. Even though we complained about it, high school was awesome. Karube then turns to Arisu. Arisu, do something with your life. And Chōta adds, yeah, and remember us. Promise, Arisu? Remembering that promise, Arisu wakes up again. Realizing that his face is pressed up against the carpet, Arisu starts rubbing his face against the carpet. And honestly, it's impressive. I was so sure that he was gonna get severe carpet burn, but no, his rubbing and his wet mouth eventually causes the tape to come undone, and after having a coughing fit for a few minutes, he starts shouting for help. Usagi and team who are still running around stop when Usagi hears something. They all still for a few seconds, and then Usagi hears it again, a cry for help. More specifically, Arisu's cry for help. She runs towards the general direction and stops, putting her ears to the doors, and eventually she manages to find the room where the shots are coming from, but she can't enter because the door is locked. And to make things worse, a few of the militants have spotted them. Usagi goes into one of the rooms next door and leaps off the patio and latches onto the patio next door, and then she breaks through the window, gets up, and unties Arisu. Next door, Tata is punching the militant who is trying to shoot at Usagi, and Asahi takes the vase and bonks him on the head with it. You just have to love their teamwork. Back at Kuina's and Last Boss's fight, Last Boss gets up after being tossed across the room, and he grabs a bunch of beer bottles and starts throwing them on the ground where Kuina is standing. She dodges them all, but now she's surrounded by glass shards, so she can't move as she pleases. When Kuina doesn't make an effort to step on the shards that come after him, Last Boss taunts her. Is that all you got? I knew it when I saw you. Your will to survive is weak. And Kuina thinks back to her mother. She'd come to visit her mother who was hospitalized, and that was her first time seeing her mother since she transitioned. The moment her mother saw her, tears started forming in her eyes, and the first words that she said to Kuina were, "Hikari, you look completely different. You look beautiful." And with that memory in her mind, she widens her stance and gets into a fighting position. And this time she lands the final blow just like how her dad always yelled at her to do so. Usagi helps Arisu get into the room next door where Tata and Asahi are waiting for him. Tata hugs Arisu, ecstatic that he's safe, and once Arisu is situated, Usagi hands him his phone. "I hate to break this to you now, but we only have 30 minutes left. Okay, explain the rules to me really quickly." While Usagi is explaining the rules, the militants are slowly realizing the destruction that they've caused. Most of their comrades are dead, but they still haven't found the witch. Now that Arisu knows the rules, he has some opinions. This is the worst of the games yet, but just like those horse-headed taggers that we met before, they were being forced to participate with rules of their own. I'm sure that it's the same this time. The witch had to kill the girl to start the game and try to survive until the end, and in other words, the witch clears the game if everyone else at the beach gets a game over or gets killed by the laser. If I were the witch, I would join the hunt, because it'd be game over if I was caught. Asahi questions if the witch is a militant then, and Tata wonders if it's Naragi, Last Boss, or Aguni, but Arisu doesn't think so. No, if that was the case, the militant corps would simply just kill each other. It doesn't feel like that's the purpose of the game. This is a hearts game. It's not just a physical game. I know because I've cleared a hearts game before. It's the most evil of the games. You toy with people's feelings, you betray and try to kill each other. The hearts game eats away at your soul. Even if the militant corps wins, other conflicts will turn up. Something is just not right. What could it be? If I was the witch, how would I steer the game to win? Agni, in the meantime, is standing in front of the Judgment of Fire, watching as people get thrown into it, and he's watching the fire with such a hopeless look in his eyes. The camera zooms in on his face, and you can see a single tear rolling down his face. He's thinking about Hatter. Before they had come to this world, Hatter owned a hat store called Tanma. Agni one day went to try on a hat, and when he put it on, Hatter laughed. "It doesn't suit you, Agni." Who would have thought that the best men's club host in Kabukicho would wind up being a hatter? It was my father's dying wish. You were an SDF officer, weren't you? You could have done anything, but you chose to join the Yakuza. Speaking of the Yakuza, Shogo was killed for skimming the government's payoff. Hatter walks up to Agni while saying, "You know that you're the only friend that I have left. Live long, friend." And he pats Agni on the shoulder before walking off into his store. Agni tells Hatter to live a long life as well, and you can tell that they really mean a lot to each other. Back in the hotel room, Arisu gets struck with the stroke of genius. No, I shouldn't be putting myself in the witch's shoes. I should be in the shoes of the game master. Don't you see? The game was designed to suit both its location and its players. Right after Hatter was killed, Momoka was murdered. Someone who knows the ins and outs of the beach constructed this game and its timing. The two deaths didn't happen at the same time by chance. It's It's like the Game Master has been waiting for this moment. And Usagi reasons that Hatter's death was announced after Momoka died. The only people who knew of its death were people who were in the militant corps and the executives. But the Game Master may have known about Hatter's death too. Then everyone at the beach is a suspect, Arisu. Tata adds a piece of information to this puzzle. When I passed by the lobby an hour before the game started, Momoka's body wasn't there. No point in questioning someone. The witch can just lie. The question is, why did the game start when it did? Why did they wait for Hatter's death before starting the game? I'm guessing it was to throw the beach into a state of confusion. If that's true, if I were the Game Master, what would I want to do next? Arisu is racking his brains and in the meantime has finished exposing the fingerprints on the knife. She holds up the knife to the light and she doesn't even have to compare the fingerprints before she figures out the answer. She rushes out of her room only to come face to face with a few militants. They knock her unconscious. Chishiya, after burning Naragi in the meantime, has made his way back inside and he's nonchalantly looking at Momoko's body while Alexa shouts that they have 20 minutes remaining. In the hotel room, Arisu suddenly rises from his bed. I think I know who it is. Now we're at the final episode. The final episode of the season starts off with a recording. Asahi is behind the camera recording Momoka, and they are dressed in these school uniforms walking around Tokyo looking at all the empty streets. So this is very recently after they've gotten transported to this world. Is that your phone, Asahi? No, it's one that I picked up on the way here. Is it recording? Yes, I'm pretty sure that the camera is working. There's no one in this town. Everyone in Tokyo seems to have disappeared. We are here in Harajuku and no one is here. What is going on? There's not a living soul around. The recording cuts off and then starts up again, and this time it's with Asahi pointing the camera at herself. It's been 5 days now. Taking another video, Asahi? What are you gonna do with them? Leaving a record? Someone might see it one day. Momoka loses interest and Asahi continues. And after a little while, we met someone. There was this place where we were taken to, and when we got there, we started working. Momoka starts walking towards the Minami and Ayoma station, and Asahi asks her if she's really going. Momoka nods and starts heading down into the subway, and it's pitch black down there because there is no electricity. Eventually, Asahi loses sight of her friends and starts yelling, and now in present day, Momoka is dead. Inside the beach, a whole bunch of members have gotten surrounded by the militant members, and honestly, no one looks like they want to be in this situation. The militants hate that they have to kill their friends, and the survivors just don't want to die. One of the militant lackeys says that he can't keep killing people. He will literally never be the same person again. Agony hears this and kicks the man in the back of the knees, causing him to kneel. Did you hear me? Anyone who defies me is the witch. And he pulls out his handgun, but the brave unnamed man holds his ground. Just shoot me then! But before Agony can pull the trigger, Arisu's voice echoes through the hotel. That's enough! This ends now! You had me tied up the whole time when the murder happened, and that's where I was. So that means that you know I can't be the witch. If you aren't the witch, then you don't need to kill me, Agony. Just work with me and we'll find the witch. But Agony doesn't care for Arisu's words. He punches and kicks Arisu until he's down onto the floor. Usagi tries to stop Agony from hurting Arisu even further, but he throws her off of him and picks up Arisu by his collar when Usagi speaks out. Now I know. You're going after Arisu even though you know he didn't do it, and that's because you're the witch. Agony throws Arisu in Usagi's direction, and soon everyone starts calling Agony out, asking if he really is the witch, and after a couple seconds of silence, Agony admits, I am the witch. Everyone takes a couple steps back in fear, and the militants shift their guns towards Agony. Agony marches up to them, daring them to shoot, but no one has the guts to shoot, and eventually no one needs to because Arisu speaks up again. Agony is not the witch. It's a 10 of hearts game. It plays with your feelings and your emotions. You are not going to win by killing Agony. That's not the way this game works. I know you're not the witch, so why then? You have to have another reason. The one that you killed wasn't Momoka, it was Hatter. I could see it in your eyes that day. It was as if you had lost all hope and just gave up. I had the same feeling when I killed my friends. You are not dumb, yet as soon as you took over, you wanted to kill everyone, and that's just not like you. So, you had to have had another motive. Ever since I came to the beach, I couldn't quite figure it out why you had possession of all of these guns and why the militant corps didn't take over a long time ago. That never happened until now, because in the end you weren't against Hatter at all. Didn't you actually help each other out? You wanted to make sure that the scary people like Naragi didn't go ballistic. You tried to hold them back, and I know how close you and Hatter were. You were best friends, weren't you? Arisu gets up off the ground and he starts walking towards Agony. Then why? Why did you kill him? I'll tell you why. Because you could never forgive him for what he did. You wanted it all to stop, but it was too late. You didn't recognize him anymore. Isn't that right? And Agni thinks back to when they first arrived in this world. The two of them were standing on the rooftop, and Agni wonders if these crazy games are going to continue forever. Hatter doesn't say anything, but then a couple days later, he leads Agni to the building that is now the present-day beach. Hatter walks around with his arms held out. I will create a utopia here, an oasis for all of those who have lost hope. I offer the possibility of a better life. This will be where hope is born. Hatter, that's impossible. No, Agni, we can do it together. And that was the start of the beach. Hatter made up this whole story about gathering all the cards and sold the people on it. And from the outside, he was wildly successful. But Agni could never forget what it took to get there. One day, he had found Hatter in a hotel room with 3 bodies beaten up, dead bodies. Hatter's hands were covered in blood, and in between his fingers, he held playing cards. Idiots thought that they could hide their playing cards from me. Agni, as of this day, there will be a new rule. Death to any traitor. Back in present time, Agni punches Arisu again. You don't know anything. You know nothing. And while he's punching the living daylights out of Arisu, we see the series of events that led to Hatter's death. The person who had been covering half the frame was Agni. When Hatter had finished the game that night, the two of them had went back to Hatter's old club. Hatter is reminiscing about the past when Agni says, I'm done, Hatter. I'm losing control of Naragi and the militant corpse. Let's get rid of the beach. Get rid of it. Every member of the beach is consumed with the happiness that they've found there. Getting back to the old world by gathering a few cards was just a lie you came up with. We need to end this. So you're betraying me then, Agni. Death to any traitor, right? That's a rule of the beach. Remember that. The beach means nothing, Hatter. Just stop this. It's bullshit and you know it. There is no hope. This world we're in has crushed it all. You see, I used to have friends that I could trust, but all the hope I had died along with them. Hatter turns his back on Agni and walks a few steps away. Agni, sometimes a king is in a position where he has to make decisions that are painfully hard. Like right now, my friend. And Hatter turns around with a gun in hand, but Agni had been expecting this, so he fires off a shot. In present time, Agni is still holding Arisu by his collar, and Arisu is analyzing Agni. I know what it feels like to see your friends die, to kill them. I see it. You killed your friend. I see it in your eyes. And now you just want to kill everyone here because they were the ones who made your friend crazy. These painful feelings of yours, the game master is using them all. That's why it's a game of hearts. Don't you get that? The militants are now realizing that they were just being played the whole time and that they too were gonna die in Agni's plan. Usagi just wants to figure out who the witch is, and Arisu speaks up again. I know who it is. I know who the real witch is. A game master uses similar characteristics in every game. In a game of hearts, he usually makes a fool out of everyone. A game of betrayal plays with your hearts. It's bullshit. It looks like the wolf is the one that needs to hide. It might be that there was really a way to end the game without having to kill everyone. A solution where no one would have to get hurt, where no one had to die. And a random resident points out that it's impossible because they have to burn the witch. But Arisu stands up telling them that there is one possibility. The witch could be right here and no one dies because it's Momoka. She was the witch all along. If I were the game master, that's what I would come up with. Agni either doesn't believe this or doesn't care because he kicks Arisu again while shouting that he is the witch. Agni is slowly losing it and he starts attacking random beach people so that everyone starts piling on top of him to try to stop him, and he tries to take down everyone at the beach because in his mind they are the reason that Hatter went mad. And we see the ending of the showdown between Agni and Hatter. After Agni had shot his friend, he checked the gun that Hatter was holding and it was empty. There were no bullets in there, not even one. This adds to the pain even more and he starts fighting even harder against the beach residents. In the midst of this chaos, Asahi comes up with an idea. I know how to stop Agni, trust me. I'll get his attention, alright? Burn Momoka in the fire of judgment. Arisu, this whole thing has to stop now, okay? Asahi goes to the middle of the room and shouts, everyone, listen! I am a dealer of this game! And to her credit, her announcement catches the attention of everyone in the room, but moments later, a laser comes out of the sky and shoots her. The entire room is silent. But then Anne's voice breaks it. She limps in with Kuina's help while holding up the knife handle. It was a reverse grip. Fingerprints with a reverse grip were found on the knife. That means that Momoka grabbed the handle of the knife and stabbed it through her own chest. She was the witch. The crowd has a bunch of questions from this announcement. Like, why did she stab herself? Is she really the game master? Were they just being played the whole time? But both Usagi and Tata remind them that they too are human. They were probably also being controlled by somebody else. Arisu tries one more time to knock some sense into Aguni. Aguni, we need to stop this. No more innocent people have to die. Too many have died already. I understand how it feels to kill your friends, but we can't take it out on the people who are still alive. We are still alive. We are in this together and we have to fight to end it all. I don't want anyone else to die. But all hell breaks loose when the fire spreads into the main lobby. Everyone hurries to burn Momoka's body, but shots start going off again. A burned Naragi walks through the front door. He's carrying a torch with the judgment of fire burning on it, and he's pissed off. From the beginning, I should have just used this fire of judgment to burn this whole place down. And he throws the torch onto the floor, lighting a new fire. People start screaming and running, and Naragi lets loose again. Usagi jumps on him from behind, trying to stop him, and Arisu helps her, but Naragi punches Arisu across the hall and throws Usagi at him. Arisu crouches in front of Usagi so any bullets from Naragi don't hit her. And when Naragi pulls the trigger, Arisu closes his eyes, but he doesn't feel any pain. Aguni had jumped in front of Arisu. Agni bears through the flurry of bullets that Naragi lets out and tackles the man. He pushes Naragi all the way over the ledge and then jumps over with Naragi as two final shots get let out. Everyone stares in shock, but Alexa reminds them that they only have 3 minutes remaining. The crowd rush to burn Momoka's body, and Arisu on his way out sees a phone lying next to Asahi's body. It's different from the phone that they are usually given when playing games. Once the body is burned, all of their phones chime. Game cleared. Congratulations. Last Boss is propped up against the wall in the hotel, and his dying thoughts are, there is no safe place for us in this world. When the first explorers discovered the North Pole, the world was unspoiled, spared of the burden of civilization. And when it is all said and done, we simply return to the soil. This land is a mirror of the world. I am thankful for this place, for now I am freer than I have ever been before. The survivors exit the building and they watch as their paradise burns. Usagi looks to her left and she can't help the rage that she feels when she looks at the militants. She tries to walk towards them, but Arisu stops her. You can't, Usagi. But they killed them all. I can't let that go. One of the militants pulls out his gun, gets onto his knees, puts the gun to the bottom of his chin and pulls the trigger. But thankfully nothing happens because there are no bullets in that gun. The man looks visibly revealed, and honestly, I can't blame him. Again, when it's life or death, there's a lot that I think I can forgive. Arisu pleads with Usagi to just let it go. The people who are alive are the only ones that matter. And then he collapses into Usagi's arms. The poor man has gone through so much. Inside the hotel, the 10 of cards is sitting on a white table, and Chishia approaches the table and picks up the card. Kuina pops up next to him. You never quit, do you? I was starting to think that collecting these cards was pointless. And what about now? What do you think now? I'm thinking that we still haven't seen any of the face cards. So what is it that the game controller wants us to see? The next day, Arisu and Usagi watch the recordings that were left on Asahi's phone, and they watch the recordings that we were shown at the beginning of the episode, and then they also see what happens inside the subway station. Momoka had gotten down onto the tracks, and they're walking along when Asahi is detailing what she knows. There are these people known as dealers who help facilitate the games. Sometimes we actually join the games or act as taggers. Everyone thinks that we're just regular players, and part of our job is to confuse them. But during the games, we're being watched the entire time, and we'll be killed if anyone ever finds out that we're the dealers. The girls stop at one of those authorized only panels, maintenance room things, and next to the door is a keypad. Momoka types in the code 269525 and the door opens. Nestled deep inside the room is a staircase that leads deeper underground, and in there is a room where there are these pods. Each pod is like a circular section where the walls are TV screens. There are a bunch of people in suits who are busy watching the games that are playing out on these screens and placing bets and laughing. Think about a casino, but instead of betting money on card games, they are betting people's lives on the games that these people have made, and they are laughing about it. I know I said I can take a lot when it's life and death, but enjoying other people's misery is not one of them. Thankfully though, Momoka and Asahi are not one of those people who are enjoying the things that they need to do. They've made their way to an empty space and the camera turns back to Asahi. Momoka looks absolutely destroyed and she tells her friend, "So many have died. I remember one girl around our age, our job was to make sure that the game went the way they wanted it, and we joined in, and we made sure many players died. Because of us, many people die every day. I can't take this anymore. We kill people, win the game, and earn visas. We get to live for another day, 2 weeks, maybe at max, but I don't even know how many people I just can't do it anymore. Momoka, this is all a dream. It's all right. We're gonna wake up from this nightmare soon." And the recording ends. Arisu and Usagi follow the same path that they saw the girls follow, and when they enter the dealer's base, it is quiet. They enter one of the pods, and inside they find bodies. All of the dealers have been lasered to death. Not a single one of them is still alive. Arisu and Usagi are looking around when Chishiya and Kuina show up from the other side. "So, you've actually found this place. I expected no less from you. Long time no see. Thanks to you two, I have all the numbered playing cards right here." "Thank you. How did you find out about this place?" Chishiya holds up the piece of paper he had gotten from the horsewoman in the tagging game. If you remember, it was from part 1. It's the one with the circle and all the squiggly lines in it. It took me a while, but I figured out that this was actually a map of a subway station. "So, what happens when we collect all of the cards?" Thought coming here would provide me with the answer, but I gotta tell you, I only know one thing. These people aren't the game masters, are they? What is pretty clear is that they were all killed after our victory. They're just humans like us, and the kicker is that there's someone above them. Who do you think it is? Who knows? Maybe aliens, maybe God. And then all of a sudden, all of the screens in the pod light up and the message on them reads, "Special Urgent Broadcast." After a few seconds, Mira's face comes into view and she is full on smiling. "Congratulations to all of the players. Except for the face cards, you have completed the numbered games and emerged victorious, and the prize of those sweet victories was a sacrifices of many lives. I wonder just how many of your close friends have died. Do you remember the ones who were shot in the head, the girl you burned alive, the ones struck down by lasers, or the ones who drowned, the ones whose heads were blown off?" And while Mira is saying all of this, she's showing scenes of the games where all of these things happened. Your friends, all that despair you felt, those gruesome scenes, you will never forget them. And that really touches me. To all the surviving players, we just wanted to give you a present. There will be new games. Let's all play, and this time with all of the face cards. We've got so many more wonderful and exciting games in store for you all, so be prepared. Chishiya is intrigued by this whole thing. New games. I can't say I completely hate the idea of that. Kuina feels differently. So then, is she the game master? I think I'd rather see an alien up there. Mira is still speaking. The next stage starts tomorrow. When the clock strikes noon, let's have some fun all together. Usagi is discouraged because they have to fight once again, but Arisu points out that there is one difference now. Now we know what our target looks like. The next day at noon, the remaining survivors leave the areas where they were using for accommodations, and the buildings that used to point their way to the game arenas now say next stage. Shadows start to fall over the city where Arisu and Usagi are, and they see a giant blimp flying through the sky, and the blimp has a bunch of pieces of papers put together to form a giant king of spades. All around the city, these blimps start showing up, and each one of them is carrying a different face card. And that is the end of season 1. I just have to say that this show was so well done. It's absolutely fascinating to watch how for some people a world like this is their worst nightmare, but for others it's an escape from how terrible the real world was for them. It's kind of amazing how a lot of professions are also much more useful in these situations than I had initially thought. Like in a dystopian society, a forensics officer was kind of low on my list of useful people, but without Anne, the story would just not be the same. Also, I hope you caught it, but Arisu is convinced that there is a way to beat the Hearts games without killing everyone. So the question then becomes, what about the 7 of Hearts? And Reddit had some theories for me. If you're interested, feel free to look all of them up, but I personally believe in the theory of only one death. So the game could have played out something like this. There was nothing stating that you couldn't take off the collar as a wolf. So one person could start off as the wolf, take off the collar, and then look at the next person. Then that person would do the same to the next person until there's only one wolf left. Now, Now, I don't know if all of them would have gotten days added to their visas if they played it like this. I highly doubt it. But the last person to be the wolf definitely would have. So if Arisu and Karube had let either Chōta or Shibuki be the last wolf, one of them would have had enough days on their visas to survive and one would die. But hey, I'm an optimist, so I want to believe that it would have worked out like this, but there is absolutely no proof. If this does intrigue you and you have some thoughts on how they possibly could have survived the Seven of Hearts games, let me know down in the comments. Season 2 only gets better, so I hope that this convinced you enough to give it a chance. It was so good. I am, however, skeptical about season 3. I hope it doesn't kill the show because season 2 was wrapped up so nicely except for one little thing. Anyway, that was way off topic. Let me know if you like this and if you want me to cover season 2, and I will see you all next week. Bye!